Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Arsaholics podcast on a Sunday night. I've got myself, Raj, and Aaron and Mize with me. Hello, boys.
Hello, mate. How's it going?
Just low energy. Come on, boys. Up it.
Raj,
We've won again. Good. Reflecting on a win, obviously. So, yeah, we're just reflecting on the weekend that's just gone. Arsenal's first game at the Emirates, first home league game this season. Leicester City. Arsenal win 4-2. It was a beautiful attacking display. We'll dissect it. Jesus was brilliant. A couple of goals from him, one from Xhaka, one from Martinelli, and joint top of the league on points. You know, it doesn't get better than this unless you're the only one that's top. So, guys, how did you feel about yet another win, 2 wins in a row, and a really kind of, I think, pretty convincing win? Would you not say?
Yeah, I think 4-2 was a. I mean, basically, we could have scored a lot more than 4 goals. We had the chances to do some serious damage to Leicester, and I think even Leicester's 2 goals potentially could have been avoided. Slight mishaps, you could say. So overall, scoreline wise, it could have even been more. But yeah, like you said, Roger, I don't think really we could have started this season any better, right? 6 points from 6, scoring goals, creating chances, new signings are there, new signings are in the team, and we're not kind of we're not scampering around at the end of the transfer window trying to fill spaces in the squad. I'm sure we will still hopefully do some more business, but the main guys are there. They've hit the ground running. So overall, there aren't really too many negatives at the moment. And yeah, yesterday was just such a nice day, such a good win, and it was a really entertaining win as well. So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Aaron, and there was some interesting things in the game yesterday, which I think we haven't really seen from Arsenal, certainly over the last couple of years gone, which is that it's felt like over the last couple of years, when a team score, when a team get a goal back, suddenly it's all like, oh crap, and everyone gets a bit nervy, and everyone, Leicester, the 2 times Leicester got a goal back in the game, we scored within 2 minutes of each of those goals. It was almost like Leicester was still celebrating, and we scored 2 decent goals. What did you think of that kind of responsiveness?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? So I didn't actually watch the game live. You guys went. I was away at my brother-in-law's graduation. Congratulations to him. But I missed the game.
I mean, yeah, and as far as reasons for not coming to a game, that is absolutely terrible. I mean, going to my brother-in-law's graduation, mate, Jesus. Anyway.
I like my brother-in-law.
I bet he's a lovely guy. I bet he's a lovely guy.
I'm going to add as well, just to make this worse. So I was on holiday last week. I was abroad, and I booked my flight back. Left my wife and kids in another country, and I came back on Friday night. No, Saturday, early hours of the morning. Got into bed at 4 a.m. and I made it.
And by the way, do you know what? Additional nonsense to this, Mize, right?
Yeah.
Is out of the 3 of us, he's the only idiot who got invited to the screening of Arsenal's, all or nothing thing, because he is like fucking poster boy supporter over there, like been to every home game or whatever. Which, by the way, I'm still not convinced that I did not, go to every home game or whatever. Anyway, point is,
the bitterness.
Absolute nonsense. And then look at you phoning in because it's your brother-in-law's graduation.
Anyway. But anyway, I was going to turn this into a point about. So I was actually listening on the radio, which is something I quite like to do. Which is a bit of a throwback. But when they scored, I actually lost signal, and then I was just like, oh no, they've pulled one back, like classic Arsenal fan anxiety. And then got a goal alert on my phone like a minute later, and I was like, oh, we've scored again. And I was like, oh, this is like, maybe we are learning something. And then they pulled another one back, and I was like, oh no, here we go again. This is it. Like, this is a start of their comeback. Anxiety. And then Martinelli scores again, and I'm like, oh, this is quite nice. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys celebrate the goals in the ground, but you must have been going mental at those last two. Those two.
Sorry, I got. Sorry, sorry. Am I the only one who lost you?
No. Yeah, I did as well.
Oh right.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. You just basically you just had your face like that. I didn't hear you. Whatever.
I was making such a good point.
So you said it's about after Martinelli scored or something like this.
Yeah. So Martinelli scored, and I just felt that actually it was, again, great for us as fans to not have to deal with that anxiety. Because, we as Arsenal fans, we like to worry, right? We always find the worst case scenario for anything that could happen. So I think just for us to not have to deal with those emotions of, are we going to throw this one away? Is this, the dawn of a new era, or is this like same old Arsenal? Like, we've just put that debate to bed straight away. We were like, no, we're not going to deal with this anxiety. We're just going to score and stop them from even thinking they've got a chance of coming back.
Agreed. And how much of that do you think is to do with Arsenal? And how much do you think is to do with the fact that Leicester just defensively kind of seem like they're picking off from last season and just are effectively a poor man's Wenger's Arsenal?
No, I think usually I would say, like Leicester, they look poor, and I know they've got a bit of a gut issue in goal with Borden, who wasn't very good yesterday, but I genuinely think we played some really good stuff going forward. And I think Leicester just didn't know how to handle the movement of Jesus, of Odegaard, Martinelli, Xhaka. They just caused so many problems for them. I think, on another day, it could have been 5 or 6. And actually, our, Jesus missed a couple of good chances. Xhaka missed a chance. We should have put that game to bed a lot earlier. And actually, the biggest learning from me was actually, well, this could have been a lot bigger.
Yeah, Miles, that first half domination, right, is interesting because it wasn't quite the same as how it happened against Palace, right? Against Palace, we sort of dominated from the word go and then sort of started to come off it a little bit in the sort of 35th, 40th minute. It was quite interesting against Leicester, wasn't it? Because the first 5 minutes or so, we weren't actually that good. And it felt like Leicester actually were kind of going toe-to-toe and they probably had the best chance at the beginning. And then at some point, something clicked and then it was just complete domination of that half. What did you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite interesting because I think this team is still kind of finding its feet in a way with the new signings, with the way that Arteta wants them to play. And I think, we saw it against Palace, right? And we were talking about this pre-match. Started the game really well, 20, 25, 30 minutes of pure domination, controlling the ball. But then I don't think we as a team, Arsenal as a team, are yet at that level where we can do that for a longer sustained period of time, like a City do, like a Liverpool do, where they just blow teams away, basically, in the first half. So I think that's one of the things that this team needs to improve on. And I think that will come because you can now start to see where Arteta's basically got, you'd probably say this is his team now, right? It's probably the first time as of the start of the season, you'd say this is Arteta's team. These are the players that he wanted, barring maybe one or two. And you can now see how he wants us to play, especially going forward, like especially attacking wise, the difference that, and I know we're going to talk about Jesus obviously, right? But the difference that he brings to that front line, and we touched on it in the last episode or last couple of episodes, the upgrade on Lacazette, but just everything more that he offers and kind of that upping the level of quality, basically, it just brings so much more, and it just allows all of the other attacking players and those forward players to kind of come to life, basically, in and around the box, which is fantastic to see. And I think we're just going to see that maybe, I don't know if it'll be through the whole season or for the first part of the season, but I think there's going to be certain games against teams that probably come to the Emirates or are happy for like a draw or to just basically try not to concede, essentially. I think you're going to see periods of us dominating, but I just don't think we're quite at that level yet where we're going to do it for like a whole half, for example, or for 60 or 70 minutes and get 3 or 4 goals, put the game to bed, and then just take your foot off the gas kind of thing.
Miles, do you think that will happen? Do you think that's a time thing, or do you think that there's more players that we need to bring in to be able to do that?
I think it's a bit of both. So I think it's a time thing in terms of the team getting more and more used to the system. You've kind of got this, and we've touched on it, right? You've kind of got this very fluid front 3, potentially 4. You've got, Jesus going left, right, in the box, dropping deep. He's performing a number of roles and kind of picking up the ball in different areas. You saw it with the first goal when he's gone wide to get the ball, and then ends up in the box to score. And I think these players are still learning that system that Arteta wants to play, but you can clearly see, and you kind of see it now with the documentary as well, right? I mean, I know there's not too much tactical insight on All or Nothing, but you see Arteta has a very clear vision and a very clear plan of what he wants from the players. And like I say, I think if you say now is the team that he wanted, or he's got the personnel and the players that he wanted, I can only see it kind of improving from this point. I mean, look, you could argue majority of our position, or a lot of positions in our team. Okay, a few positions in our team are upgradable. The obvious one is probably Granit Xhaka, and that's maybe one area where I guess I don't know if we are looking at someone or not. But he's doing, in my opinion, doing pretty well at the moment in that number 8 role. So yeah,
and just going to Jesus, because we really should talk about him. Aaron, and he scored 2 and he assisted 2. 4 goal contributions in a game. I can't remember when any Arsenal player had 4 goal contributions in a game. To do that in your first Premier League game at Arsenal, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, he's not like a kid, and he's not someone new to the Premier League, but it's still a new team. And what do you make of that kind of impact of what he had on the game? And again, we've compared him to the Lacazette of last season. What we had of last season, but from what you've seen, again, we've just had 2 Premier League games to go by. From what you've seen, is this a game changer? Is he really taking us up to that next level?
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I think that I'm going to hold my hands up. I was very skeptical about would he be able to deliver the goal record, like deliver goals. I've always rated him as a player, but would he be able to really take that responsibility of being our goal scorer for a whole season? And I'm now more and more convinced that he could. Like, I think his highest goal scoring season at City was probably 14, 15 goals.
I think it's more than going
that.
Now. It was more than
is it?
Yeah.
In Premier League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think it's clear at this rate, he's, you wouldn't, you'd back him to probably get a golden boot at this rate. I mean, the way he's going now is just, he's stepped up. I think that's clear. I think even I'd love to hear what City fans think about seeing his first 2 performances for us, because he has not only just continued to deliver in the box. I think there's an argument to say that, we needed a striker, right? And, the benchmark that he's being compared against is Lacazette, and Lacazette was clearly not able to deliver in the box anymore. Especially towards the end of last season. So, I mean, he's been compared to someone who clearly failed to deliver, but he has stepped up. I think he's stepped up and he's delivering, and he's taken on the responsibility of being the superstar in the team somewhat. And I think he's enjoying that responsibility. I think he's enjoying showing these young players that he's happy to take that responsibility of creating a chance from nothing, to just getting a shot away from nothing. And I think you see players like Martinelli, Xhaka, Odegaard just really enjoying playing with him.
Agreed. Miles and I were so confident for the game about Jesus, honestly. So I don't know if we mentioned this to you. We both put money on him to score a hat trick. So we had 10. We had like a 10. Oh, right.
You should be. Yeah. You must have been so gutted at the end, because he should have got a hat.
Absolutely, should have had it in the first half, mate. In the first half, right? So I mean, and if we talk about those goals, I think it is really important, I think, to analyse Jesus' performance, because not just because we want to be indulgent, because I think it can tell us a lot about what we can expect this season. His first goal was basically a moment of brilliance. It was also a move that he basically sort of started, because he did that thing where he's done it a couple of times. He did it in friendlies, and he did it against Palace. I think you know what I'm going to say, Mike. He's on that wide area, and he started something there, and he's able to get into the box in really dangerous positions, and our players are finding him, and he's being really potent. And that finish was a brilliant finish. There ended up being a little nick that he took on the way, but it ended up going in. But if you compare it to the rest of everything else, the second goal was a far post header, which you've got to be aware and you've got to anticipate, and it's come off Vardy, and he's there and he's ready to hit it. And his 2 assists are or one is just hard work, anticipation in the box to lay it off for Granit. And the other one is just, it's a sensible side pass. But one interesting one that, I kind of felt it probably excited me the most was one that he missed. And it was the one that Ramsdale smashed it up the field. And he's controlled it and he spun Johnny Evans. And I know, look, Aaron, and I know that must have been so hard for you because of how much you love that guy, right?
I loved
him. But, he spun him. And you know what it reminded me of, guys? Do you remember when we played City on New Year's Day and we lost? And Gabriel's second yellow card. His second yellow card was because Jesus spun him in the center and basically went off.
Yeah.
When you have someone who can do that, he can do that out of nothing. So what I was most excited about is in things like that, we don't even have to be playing well when you have a player who can do stuff like that. It's like when we had Sanchez, he could just do something. And I felt that we don't have that player. Well, we haven't had that, despite how good your Sakas are and Odegaards and Smith Rowe, despite how good they are. I still don't feel they're like the sort of players who will do something out of nothing. But that, for me, was just like, wow.
But this is what I mean, right? Do you think at City, I don't think Gabriel Jesus was the guy that City turned to when they were like, okay, we're not playing well.
No, you're right.
We need Gabriel Jesus to do something from nothing, right? They've got De Bruyne. They've got, a number of other players who they would turn to say, okay, you need to win us this game. Like Jesus chipped in regularly, right? But I think he's transformed into this type of player that you said now, which is, okay, well, yes, we were playing well yesterday, but even if we're not playing well, I'm going to try and make something happen and win this game potentially by myself with a bit of genius. And there's still, room to grow for him into that role. Like we're basing this off 2 games, so let's not get carried away. But he's certainly showing signs of maturing into that type of player.
I was just going to say as well, I think it helps massively that he's just, obviously he had a very good pre-season, so full of confidence, and he's come into this season full of confidence. He knows he's the main man at Arsenal now. He knows he's going to be starting basically every Premier League game, every big game. And I think that must help massively because he just he knows where he sits with this team, with this manager. And yeah, he's just had a flying start with the club. So yeah, you could just tell he was just buzzing yesterday. He was full of confidence.
He said that in his post-match interview. They asked him, at least I'm not sure if they showed it on TV, but when I was listening on 5 Live, he said, it's not that I wasn't unhappy at City, but I just wanted to play. And at City, you've got loads of good players, but I came here because I just want to play. And then he, to fair play to him, he then paid credit to Eddie Nketiah. He said, look, between me and Nketiah, there's 2 of us. There's 2 very good strikers here. And we're going to keep each other on our toes. But I want to play and I want to continue to score goals. And that's probably part of the reason why he came here, and the sell to him that I assume Arteta and Edu gave him was, come here and become the main man, and you could really step up.
Yeah, definitely. You can almost see it on his face. It looks like he's enjoying it so much, being here, and that fluency he's got going on with the team is great. A point that I wanted to touch on, I think this kind of brings naturally to it. Actually, is yesterday, a lot of what we did well was coming down this left-hand side. And it's that area that Jesus also likes to sort of gravitate towards as well. And Martinelli, who is, Aaron, and he was your choice this season as the player that you thought would really kind of, be our standout player. He's got 2 goals in 2 games. You're on track for that. And Zinchenko has obviously started very well. So one of the things I was really feeling yesterday is that left-hand side was where it was very potent for us. And it felt like Xhaka was sort of struggling a little bit to impact the game on the right-hand side. Is that something that any of you observe? I mean, I'll go to you on this. Do you observe that? And do you have any concerns, but I guess any thoughts on basically what seems to be a more bias that we have now to that left-hand side?
No concerns, really. I don't think Xhaka had a bad game at all. I mean, to be fair, he could have ended up with an assist on Xhaka's header that hits the post. That could have easily been a goal, and therefore an assist for him. He had a sort of a fairly good chance where he worked his way into the box in the second half, and the keeper saved it. And the one that Hayes just misses, well, it's not an open goal as such, but one that he should score, and he could have had a goal or maybe even an assist there. So I think he was heavily involved in the game. I guess to be honest, I kind of look at it as a positive because it just shows that we're now not as reliant on him as we have been for the last couple of years. We've been looking at Saka when he was like 19, 20 years old to get us out of holes that he should never have kind of been put in that position. So from that perspective, I'm not concerned. I still feel like he's getting lots of touches of the ball. He still looks dangerous. He still looks confident. And I think the other factor is maybe, and I don't know how much this has impacted his start to the season in terms of maybe he hasn't looked quite as dangerous as say Martinelli on the other side, but obviously not having Tomiyasu behind him, does that make a difference? Like, it's probably a question I'll ask you guys. Do you feel like that makes it? Obviously, it will make a difference because between him and Ben White, between Tomiyasu and Ben White, they're very different players when they play at right back, right? But I don't know. Do you guys feel that could make a difference or has made a difference to how Saka's playing and kind of his involvement in games?
I have a thought. I mean, Aaron, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just literally about to say pretty much word for word what you said, Myers, which was I think Ben White offers something very different. And I'm not necessarily sure it's a bad thing because last season, like you said, it was if Ødegaard and Saka didn't do anything, we didn't score goals. And actually, like now Ødegaard has got kind of two options, although he's a bit more of a right-sided 8 in this system. He can go left and he gets involved with all that fun on the left-hand side with Jesus and Martinelli and Xhaka and Zinchenko. And yeah, we don't really seem to have that going on the right. But I think that's probably a tactical thing because looking at the way Martinelli kind of got at that Leicester defence, that looked like a deliberate plan. And I think there are going to be days where we say, actually, let's put some more emphasis on the right-hand side. And maybe you're right, might as we pay Tomiyasu instead of Ben White because actually we need more down there. I just think it's great to have options. The fact that we're saying, look, Saka didn't play, although he probably, like you said, could have got 2 assists. Does it concern me? No, absolutely not. I'm not worried about it. I think it's an exciting way to tweak the system if we need it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the thing I just underline about that is with that Tomiyasu and Ben White alternation and how that impacts Saka, I think that it's almost less about them as individuals and more about the system, because I think when Ben White does play, it means that Saka has to do more work. And I think when Tomiyasu plays, given he just plays as a more traditional fullback in an overlapping fullback kind of capacity as opposed to an inverted fullback capacity, it just means that it's less work for Saka. So like I think that I agree with you, Miles. I think that when Tomiyasu does play, then Saka, by virtue of just not having as much responsibility on the defensive side, probably does kind of find it more straightforward. I think it probably helps on the left-hand side with Xhaka, actually, because Xhaka is very good at filling in that kind of left space as well, like defensively, and we should come onto that in a second. But it's a side that he feels more comfortable kind of mopping up on as opposed to that other side. So I wonder if that is an impact as well. But we've got. It's interesting because it's that position with Xhaka last season that we talked about needing to not rely on him so much. So whether it is a form thing, I'm not necessarily saying it is or not. It's kind of great that we're not having to rely on potency from that side, isn't it? And Fabio Vieira is going to come in soon, and hopefully he'll make things interesting on that right hand side soon as well. Miles, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that we were talking about in the pub a little bit and throughout the game, and it is about Xhaka, right? It's about Xhaka's role in this team, how he's doing, and do we need to upgrade? Now, look, he scored yesterday. He was overall, I thought, very good yesterday, and we've discussed this in the past. But the system that we're playing now involves Xhaka playing quite high up the pitch. And when we are in possession and we're attacking, he kind of ends up being in this kind of front 5 where there's someone in each of these half spaces, and he's one of that 5 who's in one of those half spaces. And we saw evidence of that in the game yesterday when he's arriving in the box, and his goal was him in the box. And that's not an area that you would have seen Xhaka in the past. It's clearly a system thing. It's a reason why he's there. So you're getting a lot out of him. And it's interesting because he still divides the fan base. There are still loads of fans out there going, he's a liability and, he shouldn't be in the team, and almost arguing that these tactics are almost covering up for him as opposed to giving him any of the credit itself. First and foremost, before we kind of get into, should we get any players or whatever in, what do you think of him, Mize, in that position, and how he's been playing? And do you think any of this criticism is fair, or do you think that actually everyone should be really patting Xhaka on the back?
The criticism is, I feel like with Arsenal fans, right, we've all just been burnt by Xhaka so many times in the last kind of like 5 years, right? Everyone's got painful memories of these like awful last ditch tackles and mistakes and reckless behavior, and some people still hold the Palace thing against him when he got subbed off. And so I think for a lot of Arsenal fans, he's just a player that they will just kind of never kind of almost accept. And even if he does have a good game, if he scores a goal or puts in a good performance or starts the season well, as I think the three of us probably feel like he has, some Arsenal fans just won't kind of give him the chance anymore, and that kind of bridge has been burnt with them. So fair enough. So I think sometimes the criticism can be a bit unfair, because I think whether he plays well or badly, he's just a player that gets a lot of abuse anyway, and criticism. In terms of his kind of new role, yeah, it is really interesting. Like you said, Raj, we've never really seen him, and I don't think he's ever kind of had this role in his career where he's played as far forward as he is now. And you made a really good point in the pub after the match yesterday, where you said, basically he joined Arsenal, and the position that he took up was this kind of like deep lying defensive midfielder. Everyone thought he was like a tough tackling, kind of just shield the back four type of defensive midfielder. And while he probably can perform that role, we've obviously seen where it's gone horribly wrong at times, where he is left exposed. So at the moment, I would say I'm happy with what he's doing in this kind of number 8 down the left hand channel role. And I think it's really good as well, because when you've got Zinchenko as your left back, who obviously likes to get forward, he likes to get involved with what's going on in the final third. Xhaka understands the importance of covering that left back area if needed. Now, I don't necessarily think he's the best athlete to do that, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's, he's not the fastest player, basically, right? So there's probably going to be times where it might be his role to cover, but he might still have to chase back quite a bit, and we might get caught out. But I think on paper, in principle, the idea and the tactics work quite well. And obviously he's played left back a few times as well, so he's fairly familiar with the position. So I think that works quite well, like the swapping of positions. Zinchenko comes inside, Xhaka goes out wide, and I quite like that as well. And I think this kind of, technically Xhaka's a great player, right? He's got a wonder of left foot. Like the goal he scored against United at home last season was a fantastic strike, and we've seen him score some ridiculous goals for us for Switzerland before. So the idea that he's now going to be playing further forward, and one of his biggest attributes is his left foot, you could probably say that he might be a decent source of goals this season if he stays in the same role, which is also quite interesting and quite exciting to see. So so overall, like I said, I'm happy. I think, look, if we're going to talk about potential upgrades, he is a player. I said it at the start, he is a player that can be upgraded. We've said this for the last few years. And he has his limitations. He always has that mistake in him. There's probably going to be a time, if he plays 30 or so games this season, there's going to be a sending off. There's going to be a rash, where he loses his head basically, or does something. There's going to be that moment, and I think you just have to accept that. We shouldn't accept it in the sense that's okay, but you have to accept if you play him, that's what you're going to get from him. So from that perspective, I think he's definitely upgradable still. Is that Tielemans? Is that someone else? I don't know. But I think for now, it seems to be working really, really well. So I'm happy overall.
Aaron, in that position that he is playing, and I agree with Miles. I think it's working out. And I think, all the iterations of Granit Xhaka that we've seen at Arsenal under different managers in different positions, for me, this is the one that's working out the best. At the same time, do you think that in a position like that, when you have got a player who is arriving in the box and playing quite high up the pitch, and albeit yes, as Mike's correct pointed out, he's got a wonder of a left foot, do you think that there are other players that are more suited to that role? And if we take Tielemans as an example, is he someone, or that type of player, someone that you would rather see in that role?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think I'm a big fan of what I think Tielemans could bring to this team. But honestly, I've seen the way Xhaka's been playing these last 2 games and in pre-season, and I think Tielemans will struggle to match it, to be honest. I think Granit Xhaka's playing that well in that role. And I think we're just, if we had signed a number 8 and he was dropping the performances that Xhaka had dropped in the first 2 games, we would have been like, whoever this, Edu and Arteta are geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
But no, like I'm with Miles. I think he's going to cost us at some point. We know this, right? And that is the frustration with Xhaka, is you kind of just accept that he is going to cost you 3 to 6
I
points.
suppose he sort of nearly did at the beginning yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, because he gave the ball away, right? And
he got caught. He got caught on the ball.
Yeah.
And they were in Fofana, I think it was.
Yeah. And exactly. And I think, sometimes it is his fault. Sometimes, to be fair to him, it's not his fault, but it's his reputation. But where actually referees just treat him harshly and give him a yellow where he probably doesn't deserve a yellow and other people wouldn't have got a yellow. And that's unfortunate, but that's the player that we have. We have a player that has a bad reputation with referees, and the referees find it easy to pick on. And I think, and that's kind of why we say we need someone else doing this as well, because, I'm very happy for Granit Xhaka to stay in the squad, and I don't think we need to sell him, but is he the type of number 8 that we can rely on for 38 games a season in the Premier League plus important European games? I don't know. It feels a bit wild to say that, because I worry, but his timings of runs yesterday were really good. His distribution was really good. He lacks the finishing, but no, he's clearly learning how to do that now as well. Although the chance he got on Saturday was pretty much unmissable. But no, I'm willing to give it a go. I think that's what Arteta's doing. Is like, oh well, I'll put him here. And look, Granit Xhaka is the type of player that every manager picks. He plays in every position, and the managers trust him. He plays left back. He plays number 6. He plays number 8. He can do a job. So clearly, the Mikel Arteta trusts him, and I think he's gonna. I think it's probably Tielemans will probably come in, and I hope he comes in, because I think he's a good player. But no, if it doesn't, I feel a lot more reassured now than I did a few weeks ago.
Agreed. Okay, just before we move on from this game, one thing that I also wanted to touch on is the fact that we did concede 2 goals, right? We did concede 2 goals. It didn't cost us today, but particularly the first one, it came at a point where it felt like, Arsenal were in total domination, letting an opponent back into the game was such like a classic Arsenal thing to do. But the 2 goals were a bit random, weren't they? So the first one was just, Saliba headed back to the keeper that just kind of went wrong on another day. Probably that goes past the post on another day. Ramsdale doesn't come off his line or whatever. But the second goal was probably something that Ramsdale should be doing better at. He should probably save it, in my opinion. Miles, do those 2 goals give you any cause for concern, either individually or kind of, is there anything thematic there that you think that we need to be concerned about?
Not massively. I guess it's easy to say that now because we won the game. We scored so quickly after both times after we conceded, but not massively. But the main takeaway from me for both goals, so the Saliba one, right? Like, I don't even think he's trying to head it back. I think he's just trying to intercept the pass, and he just stretches, and he's just very, very unlucky. And I think, if he tried that 100 times, it probably goes in like once or twice. So that one I'm not too concerned with. But my main, I guess, if there was a concern, it isn't really with the defense. It's probably with Ramsdale, to be honest. Like, on the first one, I don't know if you guys thought this, but did you think he was out of position at all? Did you think he was too far off his line, Ramsdale?
Oh, what, for the first goal?
For the own goal?
It's difficult because I just don't, because it was such a random thing to happen. I wasn't really sure where he was meant to be in the first place. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So
I don't think I think he was coming out.
But why would he be coming out? Because it's not like it's a ball for him to come and. That's why I was a bit confused. Anyway, so that was a slight concern. And then the second goal, look, he should obviously save that, right? I think I can kind of accept us conceding a goal like that, or Ramsdale letting a goal like that past him, because generally he's a pretty good shot stopper. And I think it's just one of those where it's like right under his feet. It's just one of those where you've got to sort your feet out really quickly. And he's tried to do that. And to be fair, Maddison's hit a pretty decent shot, a pretty powerful shot, and he's just not been able to do it fast enough. And I think, that's one he'll probably learn from. So overall, not, like I said, not massively concerned. The other kind of concern from a defensive standpoint was the penalty that was overturned, because that, for me, could have easily not the decision was correct, but I think you're talking fractions of a second, or a fraction of a second, where if Ramsdale's a fraction of a second later, he makes some sort of contact with Vardy, or slightly stronger contact, and then that is a penalty. That's a penalty all day long. When we first saw it, I thought it was a penalty, to be fair, and it took the replays obviously to show it wasn't. So there are these moments of slight lapses in concentration here and there, where the top keepers in general, whether that's like even if you're Liverpool or City's keeper and you're the ball's always down the other end, you always have to be switched on basically. And if your team's dominating and got all of the ball and you don't have to do anything for the whole game, great. There's going to be a moment or two in a game where you're going to need to be switched on and make the right decision. And there's just a couple of times where that concerns me slightly with Ramsdale. But again, I kind of put that when you put that against the fact that he's still a very young, inexperienced goalkeeper. We've said it before, right? With Saliba, with all of our defenders basically, and with Ramsdale, we're going to have to expect the odd clanger, the odd mistake, because they're just they're inexperienced. So overall, no, I thought it was pretty solid. And I think again, Saliba, just touching on him really quickly, he had another really good game. He just looks like you would not watch him and think he's a 21-year-old centre back, never played in the Premier League before up until now, basically. And never played for Arsenal before. Like, you wouldn't look at him and think that. And it's actually mental when you watch him play, because he's just such a calm, cool, collected defender, imposes himself. Yeah, just looks comfortable already. So, overall, pretty happy defensively.
Agree. Aaron, anything to add about the goals conceded?
No, I think you just said it right. It's one of those where I think, if it happens again 1,000 times, I don't think either of those are goals. I think Saliba probably deals with it. And on another day, it's a tricky shot, one of those for a goalkeeper, where it's just hit so hard you don't have time to sort your feet out. And he just gets done for power. And again, I think on another day, Ramsdale probably just kicks that away and deals with it. So no, that doesn't concern me. And again, I think the one that did concern me most was probably that first chance that. Was it Fofana had maybe, where he kind of just ran through our entire defense. That was a bit concerning. But since then, we dealt with the game, we controlled them, we limited them to chances where they only scored when we made individual mistakes. So it's encouraging, because again, it shows, okay, that was a 4-2, but if we don't make those mistakes and we potentially put some of our chances away that we missed, it's probably a 5 or a 6-0. And that's a very different game altogether. And it's a different way of looking at that performance.
Yeah, agree. So, look, drawing a line under that, it's a victory. It's 6 goals scored in 2 games and 2 conceded. We'll take that, and we'll win, 2 wins out of 2. And arguably, if you look at our first 5 games, on paper, you could argue that the first 2 on paper are probably harder than the 3 that's coming up. And we did see Arsenal last season, though, be incredibly unpredictable with that regard. We were losing patches where we really shouldn't have lost, and then actually won patches that we didn't expect. So it'll be interesting to see where we go. But, as we said last episode, you're only sort of as good as the people that you're competing against, and in terms of the objectives that you're trying to achieve, the people who are trying to achieve similar objectives. So we're still learning. Although we're still learning about Arsenal, we're learning about these other teams as well. So this weekend gave us another opportunity to do that. Look, Man City battered Bournemouth, expected. Liverpool are yet to play. But and Spurs and Chelsea just played today in a thrilling game, which we don't have time to break down today. But it was a thrilling draw in the end. So both teams dropping points, but I think everyone would agree that Chelsea on the balance of play sort of dominated that game. But, it is what it is. Let's not go into that. But what we wanted to spend some time going into today, not just because it's well fun, is Man United. And, I mean, what's kind of going on there? And I think it's important for us to talk about this, because it's kind of one of these things where the grass is always greener sometimes, right? And you've got your own problems, but sometimes it's nice to sort of look and go, do you know what? Maybe we are doing a few things right, and maybe we have actually made a few decisions right that we thought. Do you know what I mean? And Man United at the moment, they've just lost 4-0 to Brentford, but Brentford probably felt sorry for them after going 4-0 up after 35 minutes. They just, finished the game 4-0. They've lost 2 in a row now. It's a tough start for Ten Hag, but let's play back. Let's play this back a year, guys. Yeah. So a year ago, we were away at Brentford on opening night, and we've lost 2-0. And the criticisms are coming out left, right, and centre around our recruitment, around the quality of our players, and effectively making us all trying to kind of implant these seeds of doubt into us around the faith that we have in this process. Should we trust this process? Does Edu even know what he's doing? Those kind of wussers is coming from the from all these different places, right? And you've got Man United right now, okay, who are in I don't know how many iterations of the evolution post Fergie, how many managers now, how much money spent, but they've got themselves in a situation where I don't know, they've got the fifth or sixth or seventh I don't know manager since Fergie since Fergie. He's there. He's brought a couple of players in, probably hasn't been able to bring in everyone that he would like to just yet. But regardless, it's a £1 billion squad. Yeah. And the team out there that played Brentford, I think were worth around, they paid 460 million for. Remember, that doesn't include the fact they got Ronaldo on a free. So, or was it a free? I think they paid a token amount. But anyway, 460 odd million. Brentford's team that started cost 55 million. All right, I'm going to pause there because that was a bit monologue-y of me. Aaron, and your brother is a Man United fan, so you obviously probably feel a lot of frustration from him. And what do you guys think? This is the great Man United. This is the team that we hated during the 90s, because if we were going to win the league, you had to beat United, and that was it, right? I mean, what is going on? And do you look at them and do you think they just need to do they just need to go look at Arsenal and go copy paste, just do what they've done? Or are we being a bit arrogant there?
I think the interesting thing is, like, when we lost to Brentford, Gary Neville was talking nonsense on Sky Sports, but we all knew that there was a clear plan at that point. Like, we'd signed Ben White, we'd signed Ramsdale at that point, I think. And it was clear that what we were looking to do was to bring in young players to help build this squad, because we know that we were never going to be able to go and buy the Salahs and the Manes of this world to come and help us out, right? With Man United, I think they just buy players because they think, oh, we're Man United and we should buy this really good player like Jadon Sancho we've been trying to get for 3 years. They buy him and they have no idea what to do with him. There is, like, you could literally take word for word what Gary Neville said about us and just apply it to Man United, which is, like, what is the plan with Man United? What is the strategy? And, like, what are they trying to do? I'd love to know where it's going wrong. Is it the managers who are making this call of, like, let's just sign these players and not really have a plan on what to do with them? Or is it the football staff, the director of football, whoever it is who's doing the transfers at Man United? Is it the chairman, CEO, or is it actually the Glazers? Because, I think for me, it's clear that the Glazers don't really care, but they're like, well, you've got £1 billion to spend on your team. That's enough to go and build a good team. And they're like, go and do what you need to do. And they've spent lots of money. They've just spent it really badly without any plan whatsoever. And the thing that, if I was a Man United fan, that would worry me is it will get worse before it gets better, right? The problem is we tolerated those 8th place finishes because we were like, we have to be patient with Arteta because it has to get worse before it gets better. If Man United are sitting in 10th place at Christmas, are they going to give Ten Hag another 2 seasons? I don't know. And that's what. Well, it excites me, but they, and then they went and signed Ronaldo. Ronaldo's a win now player. Ronaldo is not a project player. He's not going to stick around for 4 or 5 seasons to be like, I'm going to deal with 8th place 2 seasons in a row. And then they go and buy. It's a mess. Their strategy is a mess. They might get lucky because eventually they'll accumulate enough good players to muddle through. But eventually, these mistakes and this lack of strategy will catch up to them.
But Miles, like, even if you're like Del Boy and Rodney and you're given £1 billion, like, right, and you spend it on a bunch of players and you've got no real strategy, but you end up getting a squad that's, generally are worth that much money. surely to some extent, forget the Glazers, forget the managers or whatever, a bunch of players that you accumulated for that amount of money should, in theory, be able to do better than this, right? Like, not even under kind of, one system. They've had plenty of systems. Some of these players have like outlived many managers, right? Well, against Brentford, to be 4-0 down that quickly, what do you? I mean, what is it? Do you think that there's something rotten about that? What is, I just don't get it. Like, what I guess where I'm going with this is anyone could, if you have a squad that's that talented, and surely they're talented because they have a market value, these players, and you sign them for that market value. That market value is dictated by supply, demand, whatever. So these are decent players.
Yeah.
How can you be that bad?
I think that's the question, isn't it, mate? I mean, look, is it a case of, like, I think when you look at the Ronaldo thing, so this is an example. I can't answer your question. I don't think anyone can really answer that question apart from maybe Ten Hag, maybe the players, maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because he knew what went on before. I don't think any of us can really answer what the hell is going on and how they can play so badly with, exactly, so many supposedly talented players, right? But like, the Ronaldo situation just must be an absolute nightmare for Ten Hag, because, like, so he came back into the team yesterday, and they had to. They obviously brought him in up front, so they had to drop McTominay. I think it was McTominay, and then they played Eriksen as like a deep lying midfielder. And like, since when has Eriksen ever played? Like, so like, even those sorts of decisions, but I feel like that's Ten Hag's hand being forced because he has to fit Ronaldo in as long as Ronaldo's at the club. So like, there's just so many problems. There's just so many problems. Like, it starts from the top and it goes all the way down. I mean, the only thing, like, the point you mentioned about, the copy paste idea and kind of doing what Arsenal have done and starting from scratch. Like, the thing with our project that, there's so much to like about it, right? But one of the things that was clearly a problem, I don't know, during the back end of the Wenger era 4 or 5 years ago, was from the top. So with the Cronkies owning the club, there was no face. There was no connection between the owners and us as fans, or between the owners and the club. And then that was clearly highlighted as a problem. And then Josh Kroenke came onto the scene and has now become that face. And now we hear from Edu all the time, and we now see Vinay a bit and whatever. So for me, that addressing that would go a massive way to probably appeasing the United fans a little bit, to having effect, like, to Glazers actually having like a presence within the club, which is what every Man United fan complains about. And but mate, like, I don't know, where do you start unpicking it? I don't even think you can. I think for now, I'm just happy to enjoy. I was enjoying it in the pub. We were enjoying it in the pub. Those goals are going in, and we were just like, bloody hell, like, this is unbelievable. And obviously we didn't see the goals in the pub, right? So when I got home this morning, actually, I watched Match of the Day, and just like the first two got like was it? I'm trying to remember them now in order.
De
I can't
Gea's
remember
was the
them in
first
order.
one where
De Gea's was the first one. Fine, that happens. Like, that's probably going to happen to Ramsdale at some point in his career, right? So you can't, whatever. And De Gea is De Gea. Like, I still think he's a top keeper, and he drops clangers, but he's saved them so many times.
Given, exactly, and his strength is shot stopping, isn't it? So like, he's not going to do that often.
Yeah, but the second goal is the second one, right? Where
the second one is probably his weakness, which is playing out from the back.
And it goes to Eriksen, I think, and he's on the turn, like, facing the wrong way. And just like, I feel sorry for Ten Hag. I don't, because he's a rival manager, but it looks like he's just been sold a job description that is clearly like much big. It was always going to be a big job, but it feels like he's not even being given the kind of probably given what he wants. I honestly don't know what's going on there, but
well, you say that. I do think Ten Hag has to learn some lessons here as well, right? Like, when Mikel Arteta came in, he was like, I've got this brilliant vision of the football we want to play, but I've got Mustafi, I've got Ozil, I've got all these players who I don't trust to play out from the back. So I'm just going to play a back five and get us through this season. Mm-hmm. What he's done is, right, we're going to try and play out. I think that's the plan. Like, we're going to try and play out from the back. But he told De Gea to pass it to Eriksen, and they just got pressed and they got done. Right? They bought Martinez, who we scouted very well. Like, I watched loads of YouTube videos about him when we were in for him, right? And he is a great centre back or even a left back when you are dominating possession and you want to play out and you want to get the ball to your midfield, and your midfielders can turn and they can pass it to your forwards and you can build up possession. Man United don't have those players. So instead, all he's going to do is just get bullied because he's a midget and he's not going to get time on the ball. So, should he have signed a player like Martinez when he doesn't have when he's got Fred and Ericsson, I guess, or McTominay around him? Should he have,
Do you think it's him signing? I mean, this again. Is it him signing? Is it him pushing for that kind of signing? Is it?
We don't know. That's
right?
a good question. Is it him? Who's signing the players? Who signed off on Ronaldo last season? All of this stuff is really interesting.
And it could be a similar. So there's a real interesting similarity, I think, with both those transfers, which I think sort of sums up a bit of what Man United's recruitment's like. It's so ridiculously reactionary and almost emotive. So, like with Ronaldo, it was a case of, oh my God, City are going to buy him. What are we going to do? We can't let that happen. And clearly there was no plan to sign him. And then City looked like they were going to sign him, so they signed him. This also felt a little bit weird because, Arsenal was scouting him, Arsenal about to get him, and did Man United go, oh, hang on a minute, if that player's really good and he plays for Ajax, surely we should, surely Ten Hag would have a better relation. Do you know what I mean? And a bit weird. And then maybe Ten Hag was like, yeah, actually, I don't know, he's actually a good player. Like, yeah, I could do with him. And without it being part of a, if we compare it to what Arsenal have done under Arteta, it's been this very systemic kind of evolution, or not evolution, revolution, if you like, of the playing team from the back. So, it was like, we sort out goal, sort out centre back, sort out this. It was very component wise focused, very systemic, very methodical. This just seems weird. This is just like what are they? There's nothing to it. There's that guy looks like a good player. There's some, let's just go do that. And, I guess to your point, this is one of the things I think that perhaps Arteta didn't get enough credit for. He might have made mistakes. Arsenal certainly have not been perfect since he took over. But when he took over, he did just do whatever he had to do to get us through for a period of time. And that system he played, which won us the FA Cup, that was not what he wanted to do. He didn't want to be playing, three at the back. He didn't want to do that. But he did it because he was like, well, we need to get through this with the players that we have. And that's kind of, what you got to do. And you're right about Ten Hag having to learn a lesson. I think the interesting thing is, and it's a question to you, Aaron, and then is that as Arsenal fans, right? As much as you had all this noise on Twitter and whatever, there was that element of patience. I think people were willing to. They recognized that, like you guys have said, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, a lot of Man United fans I've spoken to, they say that, right? But in reality, do you think that will actually be the case? If Ten Hag is losing games the way that we were losing it, do you remember when we couldn't even, we couldn't buy a goal at one point, losing to Burnley, Villa, all kinds of teams at home at that point? Yeah. What if Man United spend a bit of time in the bottom half of the league? Do you think that he'll keep his job? Do you think they'll be patient?
Yeah, no, I think the problem is actually like the Man United pundits, because and I know a lot of Man United fans now get really annoyed by like Keane, Scholes, and Neville, because actually, I think, like you said, Raj, a lot of them realise this is going to get worse before it gets better. But the minute Man United are languishing in 10th place, they're in the bottom now. They probably won't finish bottom. It'd be really funny if they did. But the minute they languish, like in mid-table, Gary Neville's going to be like, this is Man United. They shouldn't be finishing 10th. We need to change this now. But actually, you just need to pick a guy and you need to give that guy 2 or 3 seasons. And then at some point you make a call to say, have we seen enough improvement? And now we've had that conversation about Arteta, right? Which is like, when do we draw the cut? When is the cutoff point, right? Because we had those, that 8th place finish, then we finished 5th. There's an argument to be had to say, if we finish 6th or 7th this season, do we draw the line there, right? But at least we've given him those 3 years to make a full assessment of, how much better are we getting over time. But I honestly think if Man United finished 9th or 10th this season, that's perfectly possible this season. I don't know how Ten Hag stays. I think the ground will just get so toxic. The pundits on TV will amplify that, and it won't get better, unless the only way it changes is if the Glazers sell and they manage to put enough pressure on them. But I don't really know enough about the Glazers, but I don't see that. Like,
I was going to say, Mice, like, do you think that a valid reason as to why they can't really be as patient as Arsenal is because Man United, although they've been spending all this money, and they're spending lots of money, allegedly none of it's actually come from the Glazers, and it's all been part of like genuine, organically created income from just the size and the power of the club. But when you're finishing 9th or 10th, you're not in Europe. Sponsorship deals are probably going to be a bit worse, to say the least. Suddenly you're global. There's a lot of fickle fans around the world which make up a lot of their global fan base. They've got a huge global fan base, right? Huge. So, if they start thinking, okay, crap, if we lose that, if we start dropping in terms of global fan base, therefore your revenue streams associated, like, European money, all that kind of stuff, but all of a sudden it's harder for Man United to actually spend like Man United, if you know what I mean. So is there a valid reason as to why they may just genuinely not be as patient?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the reason that you've just explained is fair rationale for why they might not be patient with Ten Hag. Sorry, my dog was barking in the background. I had to go on mute, so I've got a bit distracted while you're asking that question.
He was just agreeing with me.
Yeah, so I think, look, I mean, to kind of come back to what you guys were saying, if United are, it all depends on what the vision is, right? Like Aaron put it perfectly. If there's a vision where there's a plan and they're willing to give the manager time, then he will probably still be there like Arteta was after the first couple of seasons with us, because we knew what we were doing. It doesn't look like there is a plan there. It doesn't look like there has been a plan there. Even when you talked about the signings of Ronaldo and Martinez, it goes back further than that. When you look at Pogba, for example, you look at Harry Maguire, that's been an awful sign. So this has been going on for 3, 4, 5 years. And I think with United as well, it's like Aaron made a really good point about the pundits, right? Just everyone associated with United have just been spoiled. Like,
so true.
The fans of our age, we're all in our 30s. Those fans that started supporting United when they were successful, not because of their history. They started supporting them in the 90s when they started becoming successful and started winning Premier Leagues and then started winning European Cups and whatever. They've just been spoiled. So there's no patience. Like, Arsenal fans of a certain age had bad times pre-Wenger. I remember pre-Wenger just about. And, it wasn't like what it was, for those peak 10 years during Wenger and even since then. So United fans don't have that. And a lot of people associated and that talk about United don't have that memory of ever being that bad. And great, screw them, to be honest. But I think that's part of it. I think they've just been so spoiled. Everyone throws their toys out the pram as soon as they lose a game. And it's hilarious for us. But I honestly, mate, like, I don't think any of us know what would come, what United could, because the thing is, like we said, they've got good enough players to probably on paper finish in the top 4. I'm not saying they will, and I don't think they will based on what we've seen so far, but they've still got quality going through their squad. So it's very, very hard to see, like, or to kind of predict what's going to happen with them. But yeah, hopefully it just keeps going really, really badly.
Long may it continue. Totally agree, mate. Right, look, we've got Bournemouth this weekend. So let's just finish up by talking about that. So Scott Parker's Bournemouth just got a bit of a beating against City, but City are going to batter most teams, aren't they? And they did okay on the opening day of the season. Kind of classic newly promoted team at home on opening day had a nice win against Villa. And we're going to Bournemouth, as in not us individually. None of us are actually going to Bournemouth, but obviously the team are going to Bournemouth. Now, it's interesting again because this is a game that I think last season I probably would have felt quite concerned about just because of what we've come to get used to with Arsenal and playing against kind of, sometimes teams which have a little bit of a hostile atmosphere and are really up for it. I personally feel less concerned now, but I don't necessarily think it's going to be a walk in the park. What do you guys think? I mean, I'll come to you first, Aaron, and on this one. When you're looking to this weekend's game against Bournemouth, what are your thoughts?
That we should win, basically. I think I don't see much. I hate being confident about Arsenal winning because when I am confident, we just find a unique way to.
Oh, you thought we were going to win our last 2 games, and we won our last 2 games.
I did, yeah, I know, but I don't like talking about it too much because I don't want to because I'm just waiting for it to go wrong. But no, I don't think Bournemouth have that much about them. Like, honestly, I think Scott Parker at the start of the season was basically saying we have no defenders. We are struggling. I don't know who they've signed this season, but they did well against. They surprised me against Villa to get a result, but against City, you're right. Everyone struggles against City, so you can't read too much into it. But we should be going there and we should be winning. And dare I say, we should be winning comfortably.
Myers, what do you reckon?
Yeah, pretty much agree. I mean, look, yeah, they've obviously got a threat, as you said. Villa, they beat Villa on the first day of the season, but like I was having a look at some of the stats that in terms of possession, they're not a team that. Well, we can only go on the first couple of games, and one of those was against City. But I think even against Villa, they had something like 35% possession or around that kind of number. So I fully expect us to go there and have a lot of the ball, and therefore dominate. And I think when you watch, our attacking play now, when you watch the intention that we have, we're not just making passes for the sake of it and hoping that something comes out of it at the end in terms of like an actual output. We're now attacking. Our passing now is forward through the lines, overlapping, lots of good interchange play. And I just think Bournemouth basically won't be able to cope with it. So yeah, I'm with Aaron, and I think, if we go there and play as we should and dominate the ball as we should, then I think we go there and win. And I think we should be able to open them up a few times and score a few goals. So I'm going to go 3-0 Arsenal.
Oh yeah. So what was your score prediction, Aaron?
I'll go 4-1.
To be honest, I think we are going to batter them. To be honest, I think we're really cautious on this podcast of sounding like idiots in retrospect, right? But I really for the reason, Miles, I think you nailed it. Really, to be honest, I don't really. What I found interesting is they're not. Some teams get promoted, and from what you see in the transfer window, you can sort of tell if they are thinking, right, we really want to make a go of staying up, and we want to establish ourselves as a Premier League team, or some of these teams who actually just accept that actually they need to do a couple of seasons of bouncing again because the parachute payments, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't look like these guys, I think, have a plan to stay in the Premier League this season. Like that, it's just look at how Forest have been spending. Look, Forest have signed quite a few players. They're still signing a few players.
They've been linked with Hussein Mawar, haven't they?
Yeah, I saw that. And there's a couple of others.
They just signed Emmanuel Dennis from Watford.
There you go.
It's like really exciting player last season.
Fulham don't sign Bernd Leno because they think that they, unless they've got a genuine plan to try and stay up, right? Like he would not. Why is he going to go to a team? That was true. It's true. But why is he going to go somewhere that he feels that don't have serious intentions of trying to stay up? Bournemouth don't think have that. So I agree. I look at them and I kind of go, if he's got concerns about the defense, then we're not a team you want to play right now. If you're concerned about whether you've got defensive numbers, and and anyway.
The only concern, I'm sorry, Raj, to interrupt on your prediction. The only concern, like the thing in the back of my mind is it's a Saturday night game. It's on Sky. It's at their ground, obviously, right? Whatever. So like they're going to be up for it. It's a big game for them. That's the only thing. Like if something doesn't quite go our way, and then the fans kind of really start getting. I know they've got a small stadium, but the fans start really getting behind their team, and then they're always that can always. It's Premier League. It's the Premier League, right? So who knows? But I think as I said, if we go and play our game, we should win. What's your prediction, Raj?
I am going to go 4-0.
Cool.
I was actually going to go 4-1 with Aaron, but we did the same last week as well. So let me just change up a little bit. So 4-0.
Nice.
Cool, guys. Listen, thank you very much for joining. As always, boys, it's brilliant when I get to download with you guys because it's just so much fun when Arsenal are winning, and particularly when Man United are doing so badly. Just being able to just really get into it.
We could have been harsher on United. To be fair, I think we were pretty nice.
I think so. Because it's so early in the season, at the end of the day, who knows? You never know, do you? But everyone, thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate all your support, and have a great week. And look forward to this feel good Arsenal that we've got. Let's go for 3-3, boys.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Nice one. Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.